Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And we are back again with another early review for you from the wonderful Fantasia Fest. And so excited because just like our last review, this was another one that we have been very, very much anticipating. CUCKOO, which is from Neon and has just had one of the weirdest and most intriguing concepts and trailers out there, I must say. If it wasn't for Longlegs, I'm sure this one would have had way more buzz about it in the Neon camp. But now that Longlegs has come to pass, I really think they need to start pushing this movie because, wow, this is a strange one.
Very much strange. And I got to say, you talked Longlegs. Now we're talking CUCKOO, all from Neon. Such great marketing where it's just so unique, so different. And, I could see this one much like Longlegs being a victim of its marketing just because of that built-in hype that is around it. But, and maybe some people not being necessarily prepared for what they're going to offer here in this film, because it does take a unique direction. I think one that, most people cannot be prepared for, just because it is so off the beaten path. And I feel like they are taking more so risks than really playing it safe.
Yes, they are taking many, many risks. And I definitely know this is going to be a divisive film. This comes from those who may not be familiar. Tilman Singer. He's a filmmaker that I wasn't completely familiar with. This seems to be his first film directorial debut, but he does have a few shorts, and he was credited for the screenplay for a film called Luz, which I know a few other people had said some positive things about. So I'm pretty intrigued by what this guy is going to be doing from here on out, because I gotta say, I loved CUCKOO. I thought this was just the right amount of strange with the right amount of mystery and intrigue. I was so absorbed into this movie from start to finish.
Yeah, and for me, I found this rather intriguing. I wouldn't say that I was absolutely absorbed or 100% sold on this film. I think it has its moments, and for me, when you have those great moments in this film, I was really hoping they would kind of keep up that momentum. One of the ones that I'll always point to, and I think it's so well done from the trailer, is Hunter Schafer riding her bike in the darkness. And when you see that in full length and where they go with it, the tension, the eeriness is so much there that I was hoping they would kind of keep that tension throughout the film. I did find this one at certain elements, because they kind of almost split it between horror and science fiction, which, is usually a happy marriage. And I wouldn't say it's a bad marriage by any means in CUCKOO. I just felt like maybe we could keep a little bit more tension here. There's some eeriness in here, but at some points I felt myself not necessarily deflating, but not really, having that hair on the back of my neck stand up for some of this, because they do dive a little bit deeper into some of those science fiction elements, and sometimes, at least for me, abandon a little bit of that horror element.
Yeah, I would say, I'm a big fan of science fiction and horror. I agree with you that they are usually a very happy marriage. This one falls right into the same camp as, for me, like A Killing of a Sacred Deer, where it does have those horror elements. It has a little bit of kind of that medical science kind of vibe to it. And it's really, really unique and fun. And I just found myself getting really into just the strangeness of the world. This very much seems like, with a couple of twists and changes, you could easily see Yorgos Lanthimos picking up a concept like this and kind of running with it a little bit. He would probably be a bit more out there and a bit more in your face with some of the strangeness, as to where I think Tilman Singer does try to pull back just slightly. He doesn't want to freak the audience out too much. There were moments where I thought they could have went a little bit further, but I think what absorbed me so much was just, number one, I gotta say, Hunter Schafer is a scream queen in the making. I was so absorbed by her performance in this. Like, you feel for her. You are, you're right there with her when she's succeeding. You're right there with her when she's falling. You know what I mean? Like, she had me captivated from the opening frames. Like right when we got introduced to her character, which from the trailer I was very concerned with her, not necessarily because of the actress, but because of just the way they were presented in the trailer. They seemed a little bit bumbling in a sense. Like I always go back to that scene in the trailer where they hit the bell and she sits up and falls and stuff, and I'm just like, is that really what they're gonna go for with this? Because I don't think I could deal with a bumbling protagonist while they're trying to scare me. But that's not at all what they do. And I thought that she was absolutely phenomenal in this, as well as, of course, our boy Dan Stevens. I mean, the dude has just every film he's been in this year is a hit, and I absolutely adored him in this. He's playing an even weirder character than he was in Abigail, and I don't want to spoil anything there for you, but I was so absorbed by him. The energy he gives by the time he hit the third act in this movie, I was so on board. I loved everything about it.
Man, Dan Stevens, to have two horror movies come out in the same year and playing what range in terms of different characters we're going with, but all characters that are not necessarily 100% likable, but you like them anyway because of the charisma that he is shining through the screen. And I got to say, we do get a decent amount of Dan Stevens in here, so don't get me wrong. I would have loved to even open up that character a little bit more and really dive deeper into those roots. But for what we did get from Dan Stevens, I got to say is absolutely lovely. His range is just phenomenal. And then Hunter Schafer, my gosh. I'm a fan of Euphoria, so I was familiar with her work going into this. Hadn't really seen her in anything else prior. But I got to say, what a great choice as our lead here, because so sympathetic, great comedic timing at points, but also bringing that terrifying element to it where you really buy into it. When those scenes of eeriness and terror are brought onto screen, I buy Hunter Schafer as my vessel to be seeing this and to really going through this this terrifying element of sorts. And I absolutely loved it. I think, looking at the film itself, they present some interesting ideas. I think maybe some things are not actualized throughout the entire film. There's a couple of things where, nightfall and you have to get home in certain times. I would have loved to seen an expansion upon that and really bring out the expanding of this resort, so to speak, because I think they leave a little bit on the table with that. I even verbalized while I was watching this, I think this could have been a very intriguing, 8-part series to really open this up. And, we kind of focus on more so one incident, whereas, with this, I really would have loved to open this up and see several incidents going on when we're at a particular resort with several people going. But, we didn't get that element. They really did focus on one thing. So I think this film shows a lot of potential. I just wish maybe it gave me a little bit more in that narrative, because they present a lot of interesting ideas, a lot of eerie moments. There's one, I believe it's in a hotel with, we kind of see another character. And for me, there are moments in here where I'm like, whoa, where is this going? And sometimes it kind of just trails off a little bit for me, where I would love to see them capitalize on, those terrifying elements that they were bringing to the film. So, this one, I think it presents a lot of interesting ideas. I think a little bit was left on the table for me, which just kind of, not necessarily deflates my viewing, but I just wish they would have pushed the envelope a little bit farther.
Yeah, and there's one element in this in particular. It's more or less a trick that they use, or just an element of time is all I will say. And I was obsessed with it, because I thought that, especially in that scene you're referencing, the tension, because we've now seen this play out a couple of times, is just insane in that scene, where something is coming, and you just know that every time that element takes place, it's getting closer and closer, and it's just horrifying. And yeah, like I said, I think this definitely towards the third act leans a lot harder into sci-fi than it does horror, so I could see that being a turnoff for some people. But for me, I think that this just was a film that I don't really have many issues with. I mean, I could understand where you want a little bit more. I think that's a valid criticism, and I do want more. But I was so ultimately satisfied with the movie. It's been a long time, since I've sat back and really just with a film and just been like, that was great. that was very satisfying. Even the films that I've given must-sees on this, platform, and I've said are great, haven't affected me like this one did, which is really strange. Like, I felt like I had a connection with this movie. Like I said, from frame one to the end, it just felt like a movie that was made for me as an audience member. And like that, I know it's very self-centric, but I just connected with this movie. So I mean, for me, this is getting a must see. This is one of my favorites of the year for sure, and I cannot wait to watch this again. I'm definitely going to the theater to see this.
Yeah, that element of where they kind of play with time, it's very jarring, and I think it kind of gets your heart racing a little bit. In those moments, I'll say they're they they got me going in a certain aspect. There was a film, I saw the TV Glow out there, and that film for me is just absolutely like, I'm tense the entire movie. And I wouldn't say I'm tense all the way through CUCKOO, but while I'm watching this, in that, when they play with that time element, it gets me really tense, and I love that aspect of it. Again, they use it a decent amount here. I would have loved to see them expand upon it. I'm intrigued to see, like I said, they leave a lot on the table in terms of storytelling. I think, this one would be ripe for a sequel. I would welcome it, just because I think this could be rather interesting when we expand upon the idea here. I wish I had a little bit more time with it. Oddly enough, this isn't my favorite that we've seen thus far, but this is the most rewatchable for me, because I think, this one I can sit down and I think I'll love it a little bit more each time that I watch it. I could easily see this being divisive for a lot of people. I think this may fall in the category like Long Legs, because that marketing is so strong. I think maybe people could expect something different in here. So I'm intrigued to see when this opens up to a wider audience of what a lot of people are going to think. For me, I will say this is more of a middle of the road recommend. I wouldn't say it reached that must see for me, just because of some of the issues that I did have with it, but a lot of strong performances. When they did bring that tension, I certainly do feel it. I just wish that was a little bit more, and maybe expanding upon the story a little bit more, and maybe leaning a little bit more into the horror, like you said, toward that third act. But I think, this one finds its fun middle ground with the science fiction as well as the horror, just maybe not as perfect as some other films out there. So for me, very middle recommend. I think this one is easily something that people should go out and check out when it is in the theater, because hey, you got to support it.
100%. Yeah. And, I just find it funny how you and I are kind of flip-flopped when it comes to CUCKOO and Long Legs, where it's like you were all on board for Long Legs. I had a couple of gripes with it, but we both walked out of these films raving. So that's
winning.
Always a win for us, and a good win for Neon. So thank you guys for checking out this review, and absolutely go check out CUCKOO on August 9th. You don't have long to wait. We, again, thank the folks over at Fantasia for setting this one up. And yeah, we got a few more reviews to hit. We are coming down to the wire just this last weekend of Fantasia Fest, so a couple more. Hang in there with us. And of course, we will be doing a full-blown ranking at the end of this, where we'll just discuss all of these films. So we'll get a little bit more detailed with CUCKOO and all the other wonderful things, as well as even though I've seen this film, I'll still be releasing this Sunday. Sorry, got to get my timeline correct. Hint, hint. Yeah, this Sunday I will be releasing 5 films you should watch before CUCKOO. So definitely check that out. Check out the rest of the content we have, and yeah, it's gonna wrap it up for us. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.